The sun was dying over the desert's red rocks when Nathan Caldwell saw the dust cloud rising on the horizon. It wasn't the usual traveler's dust. It was dense, heavy, as if a clear day storm were approaching. He dropped the hammer he was using to mend the broken fence and wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. Something was wrong with that cloud of dirt. 3 horses, 4 figures. Nathan squinted. The late afternoon light played tricks, but he could swear one of the figures was too small to be riding alone. As they got closer, he understood why. Joaquin Vasquez dismounted like a king stepping off his throne. The rancher boss wasn't tall, but he carried authority in every movement. His dark eyes swept over Nathan's ranch. The simple wooden house, the half-collapsed barn, the parched land that stubbornly refused to yield, despite all the effort. "Caldwell," Joaquin said, his voice cutting the air like a sharp blade. "You owe 3 months' payment." Nathan didn't answer. He knew there was no answer that would change the situation. 3 months without being able to sell the cattle. 3 months watching the drought swallow everything he planted. 3 months sleeping with a growling stomach and a heavy conscience. Joaquin gestured, and the 2 men accompanying him dismounted. Nathan knew them by sight: Carlos, a tall Mexican with a scar on his face, and Miguel, who always smiled but carried death in his eyes. They went to the 3rd horse and started helping someone down. "I don't have the money," Nathan finally just said, "but I can work. I can put the ranch up as collateral until—" "Silence!" Joaquin's word was like a gunshot. Nathan shut his mouth. "You have nothing I want, Caldwell. Your land is dry, your cattle are dead. You're a bankrupt man trying to negotiate with air." From the 3rd horse, 3 women descended. Nathan blinked, thinking the sun was playing tricks on his eyes. These were no ordinary women, they were enormous. The first was almost 6.5 feet tall, shoulders as broad as a lumberjack's, arms like tree trunks. The second was even bigger, with hands the size of shovels and a presence that made the earth seem small beneath her feet. The third, the youngest, was the smallest of the 3, but still taller than Nathan. All wore simple, worn dresses, battered by time and the road. All had their eyes cast down, as if carrying shame in their chests. All looked weary from a journey that had begun long before that day. "These are the Montoya sisters," Joaquin said, lighting a cigar. "Helena, Carmen, and Rosa, your wives." Nathan felt the world spin. "What?" "You heard right. Your wives. Your debt is paid." "No, this isn't possible. You can't trade people for money." Joaquin laughed. It was a joyless sound, like stones hitting each other. "Can't I? Look around you, Caldwell. We're in the middle of nowhere. The nearest lawman is 3 days' ride away. Out here, I am the law, and the law says your debt is cleared." "They can't want this," Nathan said, looking at the 3 women. "Nobody wants to be forced." Joaquin spat on the ground. "You think anyone asked what they wanted when their father lost the family claim gambling? You think anyone cared what they wanted when he sold them to pay his drinking debts?" Nathan looked at the sisters. Helena, the eldest, had burn marks on her right arm. Carmen carried scars on the backs of her hands. Rosa, despite being the youngest, had eyes far too old for her age. "Their father owes me more money than you do," Joaquin continued, "but he vanished into the desert, left his daughters as payment. They're yours now. Use them well, Caldwell. They know how to cook, clean, work the land, and they know how to stay quiet." Nathan felt nausea rise in his throat. "This is wrong." "Wrong," Joaquin stepped closer, and Nathan could smell leather and tobacco on his clothes. "You know what's wrong? A man making debts he can't pay. You know what's wrong? Leaving 3 women alone in the world, unprotected, unfed, with nowhere to go." He pointed at the sisters. They were living in a ruined stable, eating scraps. Helena's last suitor was 60 with 3 teeth. Carmen's was going to use her for heavy labor in a mine. Rosa? Well, Rosa's too pretty to be alone for long. Nathan looked at the 3 women again. Helena was perhaps 30, Carmen 25, Rosa no older than 20. All bore the mark of hunger on their faces, the mark of desperation in their eyes. "Here," Joaquin said, handing Nathan a paper. "It's the marriage contract, signed by Judge Martinez, legal and binding." Nathan took the paper with trembling hands. It was written in both English and Spanish. 3 names: Helena Montoya Caldwell, Carmen Montoya Caldwell, Rosa Montoya Caldwell. This is madness, he muttered. This is business, Joaquin said, mounting his horse. Carlos, Miguel, let's go. Wait, Nathan shouted. What if I refuse? Joaquin stopped his horse and turned slowly. Then you owe me 3 months' payment, plus interest, plus the contract breach penalty. That comes to, he calculated in his head, about $2,000. Do you have $2,000, Caldwell? Nathan didn't answer. Or, Joaquin continued, I take them back and you come with me to work the mines until the debt is paid. 10 years, maybe 15. You choose. The silence stretched like a rope about to snap. Take care of them, Caldwell. They've suffered enough. Joaquin spurred his horse and rode away, followed by his 2 men. The dust rose again, swallowing the 3 figures until they disappeared on the horizon. Nathan stood in the middle of the yard, holding a paper that changed his life forever, staring at 3 women whose lives had also been changed without their consent. The wind blew hard, stirring up dirt and dead leaves. None of the 4 spoke a word. If you believe dignity is worth more than a debt paid with human lives, if you know there are wounds, only respect can heal, then you understand that some stories begin at the end of the world and finish at the start of something new. Helena Montoya had learned to measure the world in spans. Since childhood, when her height began to grow beyond what was considered normal, she measured everything. Doors too low, beds too short, dresses that never fit, chairs that cracked under her weight. When her father sold them, she measured the distance to Nathan Caldwell's home, 17 hours of riding. When she dismounted, she measured the porch steps. She would have to duck her head to enter. When she looked at the man who was now, according to a paper, her husband, she measured the fear in his eyes, deep enough to drown her. I'll prepare dinner, Helena said, breaking the silence that had stretched for long minutes. Her voice was low, controlled, like someone who had learned not to occupy any more space than she naturally did. Nathan blinked as if waking from a bad dream. You don't have to, I can cook. Helena didn't reply. She walked up the porch steps, ducked her head, and entered the house. Carmen and Rosa followed in silence. Nathan's house was small and simple, a living room with a fireplace, a tiny kitchen, 2 small bedrooms. Everything about it screamed loneliness. 1 plate on the table, 1 cup by the stove, a single bed in the main room. Helena opened the kitchen cupboards. There was little food, a half-empty bag of beans, some old potatoes, a piece of salt pork hanging from the ceiling. She knew hunger. She knew how to turn almost nothing into almost enough. Carmen, the middle sister, sat on a chair that groaned under her weight. She was 25, but her hands looked 50. Hands of someone who had worked too much too soon, too hard. He looked scared, Carmen said, looking out the window. Nathan was still standing in the middle of the yard, holding the marriage paper. Everyone gets scared, Helena replied, starting to peel potatoes. We're not what men expect to find when they think of wives. Rosa, the youngest, was examining the bedrooms. She returned to the kitchen with a worried expression. There are only 2 beds, 1 single, 1 small double. We'll manage, Helena said. We always do. Carmen got up and went to help Helena in the kitchen. Her movements were economical, precise. She knew she took up a lot of space and had learned to move as if she were smaller. Helena, Rosa said, approaching her sisters, what are we going to do? Helena stopped peeling potatoes and looked at her 2 sisters. Carmen had tired but determined eyes. Rosa had young eyes, but already marked by disappointments. We'll survive, Helena said simply, as we always have. But this isn't a marriage. It is what it is, Helena interrupted. No use calling it pretty names or ugly names. We're here. He's out there. We'll find a way to live. Nathan finally entered the house when the smell of food began wafting from the kitchen. He stopped at the living room entrance, as if asking permission to enter his own home. Can I help? He asked. The tables needs more chairs, Helena said without looking up. If you have them. Nathan went to the barn to fetch 2 chairs. When he returned, the table was set for 4. It was the first time in 3 years his table held more than 1 plate. They sat in silence. Helena served beans, fried potatoes, and small pieces of the salt pork. It wasn't much, but it was well seasoned. It's good, Nathan said after the first spoonful. Helena merely nodded. Carmen ate slowly, savoring every bite. Rosa played with the food on her plate, her appetite lost in the tension of the moment. I need to explain some things, Nathan finally said about the situation. You don't need to, Helena said. We understand the situation. You do? Helena looked up and stared at him for the first time since she arrived. Her eyes were dark, deep, marked by an ancient sorrow. You didn't want us. We didn't want to come. But we are all here now. We will find a way to live together without hurting each other more than we've already been hurt. Nathan swallowed hard. I don't expect you to. The marriage paper. But I won't force anything. We know, Carmen said, speaking for the first time. Your eyes aren't the eyes of a man who forces. How do you know? We know those eyes, Rosa said quietly. We know them well. The dinner continued in silence. When it ended, Helena got up to wash the dishes. Nathan tried to help, but she gestured for him to sit down. Tomorrow you can show us what needs to be done around here, Helena said, drying her hands. We know how to work. It's not about work, Nathan said. It's about how we're going to live, how we're going to sleep, how we're going to... One thing at a time, Helena interrupted. Tonight, you sleep in your room, we sleep in the other. Tomorrow we'll see about the rest. Nathan sighed. It was a simple, practical plan. It was the kind of plan wounded people make when they need to buy time to heal. Helena, he said as she headed for the bedroom. Yes? I'm sorry about all this, about the way you got here. Helena stopped at the doorway, her broad back filled almost the entire frame. So are we, she said without turning around. But feeling sorry doesn't change anything. Living does. She entered the room, followed by her sisters. Nathan was left alone in the living room, looking at the table set for four for the first time in years, hearing soft whispers coming from the next room. 3 women trying to find space in a bed that barely fit 2. Outside, the wind continued to blow, kicking up desert dust. But inside the house, something had changed. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't love, but it was life. And sometimes Nathan thought life was enough to begin. The first dawn broke with the sound of pans in the kitchen. Nathan awoke disoriented. It had been 3 years since he'd heard morning noises in the house other than his own. He dressed quickly and came out of the room to find Helena already brewing coffee and Carmen feeding the chickens in the yard. Rosa was sitting on the porch steps, brushing her long dark hair. She looked at Nathan as he passed, but said nothing, just a nod, as if to a stranger passing on the street. Morning, Nathan said, reaching the kitchen. Helena didn't turn around but replied, Coffee's ready. Carmen already milked the cow, found eggs in the coop. You didn't have to. Yes, we did, Helena said, placing a steaming cup on the table. We're not guests here. If we're staying, we'll work. Nathan drank the coffee in silence. It was strong and hot, better than any coffee he'd made in years. He watched Helena move through the kitchen. She had to duck to reach high cupboards. She had to be careful not to hit her head on the ceiling beams, but she moved with surprising grace, as if dancing a dance she knew by heart. After breakfast, Nathan showed the property to the 3 sisters. There wasn't much to show: the half-fallen barn, the empty corral, the dried-up garden patch, the fields that insisted on producing nothing useful. The earth is tired, Carmen said, kneeling and scooping up a handful of dry soil. It needs rest, or a change. A change? Planting different things that like the drought. My father, she stopped, the word coming out with difficulty. Our father used to plant cactus, aloe, agave, things that drink little and give much. Nathan had never thought of it. He had always tried to plant the same things his own father had planted: corn, wheat, things that needed rain that never came. You know about plants? We know about survival, Helena said. Plants that survive, animals that survive, people that survive. It's all similar. Rosa was examining the barn. This wood is still good, she shouted. It just needs some repairs. Nathan approached. Rosa had climbed onto a pile of hay and was testing the roof beams. For someone her height, it was easy to reach places Nathan needed a ladder for. Be careful, he said. Those beams might be... One of the beams groaned loudly and snapped. Rosa fell backward onto the hay pile, raising a cloud of dust. Nathan ran to help her, but she was already getting up, laughing. You were right, she said, shaking straw from her hair. That beam was rotten. It was the first time Nathan had seen one of the sisters laugh. The sound was surprisingly musical, like water flowing over stones. "Are you hurt?" "No," Rosa said, still smiling. "I'm tougher than I look." "You all are." Rosa stopped laughing and looked at him seriously. "How do you know?" "Anyone can see. You've been through hard things and you're still here, still able to work, still able to laugh. That takes strength." Rosa lowered her eyes. "People don't usually see our strength. They only see our sigapan." Nathan didn't know how to respond. He himself was fighting not to be intimidated by the height of the three sisters, the breadth of their shoulders, the evident strength in their arms. That afternoon, he watched them work. Helena fixed the water pump that had been broken for months. Carmen started clearing the garden patch, separating weeds from still living plants. Rosa climbed onto the house roof to check the loose shingles. They worked in silence, focused, efficient. Occasionally, they communicated with gestures, as if they had a language of their own developed over the years. In the late afternoon, Nathan approached Helena, who was finishing up with the pump. "That must have been expensive to fix," he said. "It only needed a new part. I made one from scrap metal." "You know how to work with iron?" Helena wiped her grease-stained hands on a rag. "My father taught us many things. Said big women needed to know how to fend for themselves, because no one would want to take care of us." He was wrong. Helena looked at him, surprised. "He was. Any man with eyes in his head would see that you are—" Nathan paused, searching for the right words. "That you are gifts, not burdens." Helena was quiet for a long moment. "Do you really believe that?" "I do. Why? You don't even know us." Nathan pondered the question. It was true. He didn't know these women. Didn't know where they came from, what dreams they had, what fears they carried. But there was something about them, a quiet dignity, a strength that didn't need to shout to be seen. "I see how you care for each other," he finally said. "I see how you work without complaint. I see how Rosa can still laugh after falling off the barn. I see how Carmen talks about the earth like it's a person. I see how you, Helena, fix broken things without asking for anything in return." He paused. "People like that are rare, precious." Helena lowered her head. When she raised it again, her eyes were shining. "No one has ever said that to us before. Then people haven't been paying attention." That night at dinner, the conversation flowed a little easier. Rosa talked about the roof problems she had found. Carmen suggested changes to the garden's layout. Helena mentioned other things around the property that needed fixing. "You don't need to fix everything at once," Nathan said. "It's not about needing to," Helena said. "It's about belonging. When you fix something, it becomes a little bit yours." Nathan understood. They were trying to grow roots in foreign soil, trying to turn a place they hadn't chosen into a place they could call home. After dinner, he went out to the porch and found the three sisters looking up at the stars. "Back home," Rosa said, pointing to the sky, "our father used to say every star was a lost opportunity." "And you believed him?" "When you're losing opportunities all the time, you start to believe it," Carmen said. "And now, what do you see when you look at the stars?" The three sisters were silent for a moment. "Possibilities," Helena finally said. "Maybe." Nathan smiled in the dark. Possibilities. It was more than he had felt in a long time, too. The rain came in the second week, heavy and unexpected. Nathan woke up to the sound of water drumming on the roof and for a moment forgot he wasn't alone anymore. Then he heard low voices in the kitchen and remembered. 3 women, 3 lives intertwined with his, all without any of them having chosen to sign. Helena was by the kitchen window watching the water form puddles in the yard. Carmen was making coffee, and Rosa was organizing the tools that had been dampened by rain leaking through the roof. "Morning," Nathan said. "The rain's coming into your room," Rosa said, pointing to a bucket on the floor collecting drops from the ceiling. "Our room," Nathan corrected automatically. The 3 sisters looked at him with a strange expression. "What?" "You said our room," Helena observed. Nathan felt his face grow hot. "I meant, this is your place now, the house, the rooms, everything." "It's not," Helena said, stepping away from the window. "We know which place is ours and which isn't. This isn't." "But the paper doesn't change what we feel," Carmen said, placing a cup of coffee in Nathan's hand. "Papers don't make homes." People make homes. Nathan took a sip of the coffee, feeling the warm liquid go down his throat as he processed the words. So, what do you feel? Rosa stopped organizing the tools. You really want to know? I do. The three sisters exchanged glances. Helena returned to the window, but now she was looking at Nathan through the reflection in the glass. We feel like auction animals, she said. Tui. Large animals no one quite knows how to use, but someone bought us anyway. I didn't buy you. Helena turned around. Your debt was paid with our lives. What do you call that? Nathan had no answer. Do you know the difference between you and the other men who wanted us? Helena continued. The others knew exactly what they wanted us for. Hard labor, strong children, women who wouldn't complain when they came home drunk. You don't know what to do with us. It's true, Nathan admitted. I don't know. And that frightens us more than their certainty. Nathan put the cup on the table. Why does it frighten you more? Because, Carmen said, approaching, when someone knows what they want from you, you can prepare, you can build defenses, you can survive. But when someone doesn't know, you're just waiting to find out what kind of pain you'll feel. Nathan felt as if someone had punched him in the stomach. You think I'm going to hurt you? We don't know, Rosa said. We don't know what you are. A good man or a man who pretends to be good. A weak man or a man who hides his strength. A man who will protect us or a man who will use us. Nathan stood up and walked to the window where Helena had been. The rain was still falling, turning the dry earth into red mud. I lost my wife 4 years ago, he said without turning around. Fever. She died in 3 days. After that, I stopped knowing what to do with people. I stopped knowing how to care for someone without being afraid of losing them. He heard a chair squeak. One of the sisters had sat down. When Joaquin brought you here, he continued, my first reaction was rage. Not because you were how you are, but because someone was forcing me to care for people again, to have responsibilities again, to risk my heart again. Nathan turned to face the three women. But then I saw how you care for each other. I saw how Rosa laughs when she falls. I saw how Carmen talks to the plants. I saw how you, Helena, fix broken things without expecting anything in return. And I realized you don't need me to take care of you. You already know how to take care of yourselves. Then why don't you send us away? Helena asked. Where would you go? Helena didn't answer. You think I'm the man who will hurt you, Nathan said. But I'm afraid of being the man who can't protect you when you need it. Rosa got up and walked over to him. Are you afraid of us? I am. Of your size. Of what you make me feel. What do we make you feel? Nathan took a deep breath. Live. For the first time in 4 years, I feel alive. And that terrifies me. The three sisters were silent. Outside, the rain began to subside. We're afraid too, Helena finally said. Afraid to like it here. Afraid to get used to kindness. Afraid to grow roots in a place that might kick us out at any moment. I won't kick you out. How can you be sure? Nathan pondered the question. How could he be sure of anything? Life had taught him that certainties were dangerous luxuries. I can't, he said, but I can promise one thing. As long as you want to stay, this place is yours too. Not because of a paper, because of a choice. My choice, Osman. Helena approached him. Even with Nathan being a tall man, she looked at him eye to eye. And if we choose to stay, what do you expect from us? Honesty, patience, and maybe you can teach me how to be a family again. Helena extended her hand, a large hand, calloused from work, marked by scars from years of struggle. Family doesn't mean marriage. Nathan took her hand. I know. Family means choice every day. I know. Family means protecting each other, even when we don't understand each other. I know. Helena smiled, the first genuine smile Nathan had seen on her face. Then maybe we can try. Outside, the rain stopped completely. The sun began to appear between the clouds, creating a rainbow over the wet earth. If you have ever felt lost in your own life, if you've been afraid to let yourself live again after a loss, if you know that family is a daily choice and not an accident of fate, comment new beginning. 3 weeks after the rain, when plants were beginning to sprout in the newly reformed garden and the house was starting to feel like a home, The horses appeared on the horizon again. Helena saw them first. She was on the roof, finishing the repairs Rosa had started. When the familiar dust rose beyond the hills, her blood ran cold. "Nathan!" she yelled. "Visitors coming!" Nathan ran out of the house, followed by Carmen and Rosa. They all looked at the horizon and saw what Helena had already recognized. 3 horses, 4 men, the same number of people who had arrived 3 weeks earlier. But this time the configuration was different. Joaquin was in front as always, but behind him rode a man Helena recognized immediately, even from a distance. Tall Harry Montoya, the man who had sold them, the man they had called father, until the day he proved daughters were just merchandise when the money ran out. "It's him," Rosa said, her voice a whisper. "Who?" Nathan asked. "Our father," Carmen said, spitting the word out like venom. Helena slid down from the roof in a quick, fluid motion, landing on the ground with a soft thud. She positioned herself between her sisters and the approaching horses. "Get inside the house," she said. "No," Rosa said. "We face this together." Rosa, "Together, Helena." Nathan stood next to Helena. "What does he want?" "Money," Helena said. "He always wants money." The horses reached the yard in a cloud of dust. Joaquin dismounted first, but this time he stood back. The spotlight was now on Harry Montoya. Harry was a tall man, taller than Nathan, almost the height of his daughters, but stooped by drink and defeat. His eyes were small and red. His beard was dirty and unkempt. He wore clothes that had once been good, but were now torn and filthy. "My girls," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How are you, my angels?" None of the 3 answered. "I'm talking to you, Sam," Harry said, his voice hardening. "We heard you," Helena said. "We chose not to answer." Harry chuckled, but it was a joyless sound. Helena was always the proud one, always thought she was better than the rest of the family. "I learned that family doesn't sell daughters to pay gambling debts." The smile vanished from Harry's face. "I didn't sell you. I found homes for you, homes where you could be useful." "Useful," Rosa stepped forward, and Nathan saw anger in her eyes for the first time. "We're your daughters, not cattle." "Cattle are worth more than you," Harry said coldly. "Cattle at least produce milk and meat. You just consume food and space." Nathan felt something boil in his chest. "That's enough," he said. Harry looked at him as if only just noticing his presence. "Ah, yes, the bankrupt rancher. How are you enjoying your new wives?" The word came out of Harry's mouth like a dirty joke. "They are extraordinary women, Ma," Nathan said. "Something you clearly never realized." Harry guffawed. "Extraordinary! Caldwell, you are even more foolish than I thought. These 3 are monsters, aberrations. I fed them for 20 years, hoping some desperate man would want them. You must be very desperate indeed." Helena took a step forward. Nathan saw her fists clench. "Say that again," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "What? That you're monsters? How many times do you want to hear the truth, Helena?" "The truth?" Carmen joined her sisters. "The truth is you lost our mother's claim gambling. The truth is you drank away all the planting money. The truth is you sold us because it was easier than admitting you were a failure." Harry pointed a finger at Carmen. "Watch your tongue, girl. I'm still your father." "No," Rosa said, positioning herself next to her sisters. "Fathers protect daughters. You abandoned us." Nathan watched the 3 women stand side by side, a wall of determination and strength. He had never seen anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Why have you come here, Harry?" Nathan asked. Harry smiled again, and this time there was real malice in his grin. "I've come to take back my property." "What property?" "My daughters. The contract Joaquin made isn't valid. I never authorized the sale." Joaquin stepped forward. "You signed the papers, Harry. You were drunk, but you signed." "I was coerced, threatened. The contract is invalid." Nathan felt the ground move beneath his feet. "What does that mean?" "It means," Harry said triumphantly, "that they're coming back with me today." "Where to?" Helena asked. "To a place where you can be truly useful. I've found work for you in a mine. Hard labor, suitable for your physical talents." Nathan saw red. "Over my dead body." Harry laughed. "Caldwell, you don't have a choice. They are my daughters. I am their father. I have legal rights." "Rights?" Nathan scoffed. What rights do you have over women you sold like cattle? The rights God gave me when they were born. Helena exploded. God, she shouted, her voice echoing through the yard. You think God approves of what you did to us? You think God wants daughters to be sold to pay drinking debts? God made you the way you are as punishment for my sins, Harry said. Now you'll help me pay for them. The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan could hear his own heart beating. No, Helena finally said. How's that? I said, no, we're not going with you. Harry signaled to the men accompanying him. They dismounted and approached. You don't have a choice. Yes, we do, Carmen said. We choose to stay. You're minors. I'm 30, Helena said. Carmen is 25. Rosa is 22. We are adults. We make our own choices. Harry looked at Joaquin. Do something. You owe me money. Joaquin shook his head. The contract is still valid, Harry. You signed it. They belong to Caldwell now. They don't belong to anyone, Nathan shouted. They are free people. Harry turned to Nathan with furious eyes. Free people? Caldwell, you really don't understand anything. Women like these aren't free. They're aberrations that need to be controlled. If you can't control them, I can. Helena stepped forward until she was face to face with her father. You want to control us? Try. Harry stared at her for a long moment. Helena was taller than him, stronger, more determined. He blinked first. You'll regret this, he said, stepping back. When he tires of you, when he finds out your useless burdens, you'll beg to come back. Never, Rosa said. Harry mounted his horse with angry movements. This isn't over, he shouted. I'll come back with the law. I'll prove the contract is invalid. You're still my daughters, and I'll have you back. He spurred his horse and rode off, followed by the other men. Joaquin was the last to leave, giving Nathan a grimace of apology before following the group. The four people stood in the yard, watching the dust rise again on the horizon. No one spoke for long minutes. Finally, Rosa collapsed. She sat on the ground and began to cry. Deep sobs that seemed to come from years of stored pain. Helena and Carmen immediately knelt beside her, wrapping her in a protective embrace. Nathan stood still, unsure whether he should approach or give them space. He'll never stop, Rosa said between sobs. He'll never leave us alone. Yes, he will, Helena said, her voice like steel. Because the next time he comes, I won't just say no. I'll make him understand that no means no. Nathan approached slowly. He might come back with the law. What law? Carmen said. We're in the middle of nowhere. The nearest law is 3 days from here. And even if he brings someone, what can they do? Drag us away screaming? They can try, Helena said. But there are 3 of us. And then she looked at Nathan. Now there are 4 of us. We are 4. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He stood on the porch, watching the stars and thinking about Harry Montoya's words. Aberrations, God's punishment, useless burdens. How could a father speak of his own daughters like that? It was almost midnight when Helena came out of the house and sat beside him on the porch steps. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at the same view he was observing. You're not sleeping, she finally said. Neither are you. I never sleep well after he shows up. Carmen is having nightmares. Rosa is whimpering in her sleep. Nathan turned to look at her. Even in the dark, he could see the lines of tension on her face. How long has he been talking to you that way? Helena was quiet for so long that Nathan thought she wouldn't answer. Always, she finally said. Since it became clear that we were going to be different. Different, as in big, strong, not delicate like the other girls. When I was 12, I was already taller than my mother. When Carmen was 10, she could already lift sacks of flour that adult men could barely manage. When Rosa turned 8, she knocked out a 15-year-old boy who was harassing us. Nathan tried to imagine the 3 girls growing up with these traits in a world that expected women to be small and fragile. How did your mother react? My mother died when Rosa was 5, fever, same as your wife. After that, it was just him and us. And he blamed you? Helena let out a bitter laugh. He blamed everything and everyone. Blamed us for being different. Blamed Guy for making us different. Blamed my mother for dying and leaving him with 3 monsters to raise. The words came out like blades cutting the night air. Helena, you want to know the truth about us, Nathan? The real truth, if you want to tell it. Helena took a deep breath. When I was 15, he locked me in the barn for a week. Said he would leave me there until I learned to be a proper young lady. Nathan felt his stomach turn. Why? Because I stood up to the church pastor. The pastor said our size was proof that our family was cursed. I said that if God made us this way, maybe it was because he had plans for us that needed strong women, and he punished you for that. He punished me for questioning authority, for not accepting that a woman's place is to be quiet and ashamed. Carmen was 13 and snuck me food. Rosa was 10 and stayed outside the barn, talking to me through the planks so I wouldn't go mad from loneliness. Nathan didn't know what to say. When I left the barn, Helena continued, he said I had learned an important lesson. Women like us are only good for heavy labor and making strong children. That our only utility was our physical strength. But you are so much more than that. You see that? He never did. To him, we were investments that weren't giving a return. Helena stood up and walked to the porch railing, resting her hands on the wood. Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the words. It wasn't even the week locked in the barn. What was it? It was when I started to believe him. When I started looking in the mirror and seeing a monster. When I started apologizing for existing. Nathan stood up and approached her. You are not a monster. How can you be sure? You've known me for less than a month. I see how you protect your sisters. I see how you work without expecting thanks. I see how you fix broken things. Monsters don't do that. Monsters don't love their sisters. Monsters wouldn't sacrifice everything for love. I didn't sacrifice everything. I never had anything to sacrifice. Yes, you did. You sacrificed your chance to leave that house. How many times could you have run away and didn't, because you wouldn't abandon Carmen and Rosa? Helena didn't answer, but Nathan saw that he had hit the mark. You stayed and endured years of abuse to protect your sisters. That's not monstrosity, that's heroism. Helena closed her eyes. I don't feel like a hero. I feel broken. Broken like a part of me died in that barn, the part that believed I deserved to be loved. Nathan felt his heart break. Helena, you know why Rosa cries in her sleep? Because she still has hope. She still believes someone can truly love us. Carmen doesn't cry because she gave up on waiting for love, but she still believes in mutual protection. I don't cry because I learned that love is a luxury that women like me can't afford. Nathan reached out and touched Helena's face gently. She didn't pull away, but she didn't move closer either. What if you're wrong? What do you mean? What if love isn't a luxury? What if it's a necessity? What if you deserve love not despite who you are, but exactly because of who you are? Helena opened her eyes and stared at him. Don't say things you can't back up, Nathan. I don't say things I can't back up. They stood like that for a long moment, looking at each other in the dark of the porch. If he comes back, Helena finally said, if he brings the law or hired guns or whatever, will you hand us over? Never. Even if it means trouble for you? Helena, you are the best thing that has happened in my life in 4 years. You turned this house into a home again. You reminded me what it feels like to have something worth fighting for. He paused. Next time he comes, I won't wait for him to speak first. Helena smiled in the dark. Carmen will be glad to hear that. She said you have the eyes of a protector, but she wasn't sure yet if you knew how to use your hands. She said that? Carmen sees things other people don't see. Rosa sees possibilities. I see dangers. Carmen sees truths. And what truth does she see in totality? Helena stepped closer to him, and for the first time since she arrived, there was no distance or fear in her eyes. That you are the man who was waiting for us, just as we were waiting for you. The dawn brought changes none of the four expected. Rosa woke up before everyone else, and instead of staying in bed brooding over the previous day's events, she went out to the yard and started building something. Nathan found her hammering planks near the barn when he went out to milk the cow. What are you doing? A sign, Rosa said without stopping work. This place needs a name. It has a name, Caldwell Ranch. Rosa stopped and looked at him. Caldwell Ranch was the name when you lived here alone. Now there are 4 of us. Now it's a different place. Nathan watched her work. Rosa was assembling a large, solid sign built to last decades. What name do you want to give it? It's not my decision alone. There are four of us. Helena and Carmen came out of the house just then, drawn by the sound of the hammering. Rosa is making a sign, Nathan explained. Helena approached and examined her younger sister's work. The wood was well cut, the joints were perfect, the structure was solid. Good idea, Helena said. This place needs its own identity. Carmen touched the wood, testing the quality. Good wood. It will last a long time. How long will we last? Rosa asked suddenly, seriously. The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. What do you mean? Nathan asked. I mean, yesterday our father came here saying he was going to take us away. What if he succeeds? What if the law is on his side? What if we have to leave and abandon this place? Helena put her hand on Rosa's shoulder. We won't. How can you be sure? Because Helena looked around at the house they had helped fix, at the garden Carmen had replanted, at the barn they had all renovated. Because we transformed this place, and it transformed us too. Carmen nodded. When you put your work into a land, that land becomes a little bit yours. When you fix a house, that house becomes a little bit yours. When you plant a garden, that garden becomes a little bit yours. And when you choose a family, Nathan said, that family becomes entirely yours. Rosa smiled, and it was like the sun rising. So what do we name our place? They thought in silence for a few minutes. It has to be a strong name, Carmen said. A name that isn't ashamed. A name that means new beginning, Rosa said. A name that means here we stay, Helena said. Nathan looked at the three women who had utterly changed his life in less than a month. Roots, he said suddenly. Roots Ranch, because roots grow down, they deepen, they spread. Because once you have roots, no one can easily tear you out. Helena smiled. Roots Ranch, I like it. Me too, Carmen said. Me too, Rosa said, returning to work on the sign. Roots Ranch, this is our place now. That afternoon, while Rosa finished the sign, Helena started a project of her own. She went to the barn and began organizing it in a completely new way. What are you doing? Nathan asked. Creating spaces, Helena said, moving tools and rearranging materials. A corner for woodworking, a corner for ironwork, a corner for storing seeds, a corner for large projects. Helena stopped and looked at him. Because now we have projects, plans, a future. Nathan understood. Helena was staking a claim, marking territory, creating a place where their skills would be valued. Carmen, meanwhile, was transforming the garden. She wasn't just planting vegetables, she was creating themed sections. An area for medicinal herbs, one for spices, one for bee-attracting plants, one for plants that grew well in dry soil. It's like Nathan searched for the right words. Making the place ours, Helena completed. That's exactly what we're doing. When the sun began to set, they raised the sign together. It was a ceremonial, solemn moment. Rosa had carefully carved the words into the wood with an artist's touch. Roots Ranch. Done, Rosa said, stepping back to admire the work. Now it's official. Now it's ours, Carmen said. Now it's forever, Helena said. Nathan looked at the sign, then at the house, then at the three women who had arrived as strangers and were now, wives, family, partners. Do you know what this means? He asked. What does it mean? It means if anyone comes here to bother us, they're not just bothering four random people. They're bothering the proprietors of Roots Ranch. Helena laughed. Proprietors? I like the sound of that. That night during dinner, Rosa made an announcement. I want to change my name. The other three looked at her in surprise. Change how? Rosa Montoya died when our father sold us. I want to be Rosa Roots. Carmen dropped her fork. Rosa Roots? Why not? Helena can be Helena Roots. You can be Carmen Roots. We don't have to carry the name of a man who rejected us. Helena considered the idea. And Nathan? Does he become Nathan Roots too? Nathan choked on his water. You want me to change my name? Do you want to change? Rosa asked. Nathan thought for a moment. Nathan Caldwell had been a lonely, defeated man, living on memories. Nathan Roots would be Nathan Roots, he said, testing the sound. Yes, I think I do want to change. Then it's decided, Helena said. We are Helena, Carmen, Rosa, and Nathan Roots, the Roots family of Roots Ranch. How do we make it official? Carmen asked. Who needs official? Rosa said. We decide who we are. We choose our names. We create our family. Helena raised her glass of water. A toast, she said. To the Roots family. To the Roots family, the other three repeated. Outside, the wind rattled the new sign, but it was firmly fixed, planted deeply in the earth, like roots. 2 weeks after the sign was installed, a carriage arrived at Roots Ranch. It wasn't Harry Montoya. This time it was Margaret O'Sullivan, the only lawyer within 100 miles, a small woman sharp as a well-honed blade. Nathan knew her by sight. She occasionally passed through the region, settling land disputes and broken contracts. He had never imagined she would one day be standing in his yard with legal papers in her hands. Mr. Caldwell, Margaret said, stepping down from the carriage with precise movements. I need to speak with you and the Mrs. Montoya. The Roots ladies, Helena corrected, coming out of the house followed by her sisters. Margaret raised an eyebrow. Pardon me. Our names are Helena, Carmen, and Rosa Roots. We are no longer Montoyas. Interesting. That will complicate things further. Margaret opened her leather satchel and pulled out several papers. I have received a petition from Harold Harry Montoya questioning the validity of the marriage contract between you and Mr. Caldwell. He alleges coercion, inebriation at the time of signing, and, she hesitated, illegal sale of human property. Nathan felt his blood boil. Human property are his words, not mine, Margaret said quickly. He wants to annul the contract and have his daughters returned to his legal custody. We are adults, Carmen said. We have the right to choose where we want to live. That's true, but if Mr. Montoya claims you were coerced into accepting the arrangement and that you had no other viable options at the time. Rosa stepped forward. And now we do. Margaret looked at Rosa with interest. Well, that is an interesting question. Do you have other options now? We do, Helena said firmly. We have this place. We have work. We have choices. Can you prove that? Nathan stepped forward. Prove how? Margaret addressed him. Mr. Caldwell, do you have any way to document that these women are equal partners in this property? That they have legal rights here beyond being your wives? Nathan and the three sisters exchanged glances. I don't understand, Nathan said. Margaret sighed. Look, I'll be direct with you. Harry Montoya is coming with a judge next week. He has witnesses who will swear that you women were sold against your will. If you cannot prove that you have legal and economic autonomy, the judge may rule that you must return to your father's custody until you find other matrimonial options. Other matrimonial options? Rosa repeated, incredulous. The legal system still views unmarried adult women as problematic, especially women without property or independent means of subsistence. Helena clenched her fists. So our choice is to be our father's property or our husband's property. Unfortunately, in the eyes of the law, yes. Carmen exploded. That's ridiculous. We worked this land. We fixed this house. We planted this garden. We created this place. I believe you, Margaret said, but we need to prove it legally. Nathan had an idea. What if they owned the land? Officially, too. How so? What if I divide the property into 4 equal shares? What if each of us owns a quarter of Roots Ranch? Margaret smiled for the first time since she arrived. Now we're talking. Women who own land have much stronger legal rights, but that means they could kick me out if they wanted, Nathan said. Helena looked at him. Does that worry you? Nathan thought for a moment. No, if you kick me out, it will probably be because I deserve to be kicked out. Margaret opened her satchel again. I can prepare the documents today. We will create a 4-way equal partnership. We will also document all the improvements you have made to the property, all the labor invested, all the projects underway. Will that work? Rosa asked. It will make it very difficult for any judge to argue that you are someone's property when you are property owners yourselves. Helena approached Margaret. There's one more thing. We want to legally change our names. From Montoya to Roots. Margaret blinked. Roots, like the ranch, like the family, Carmen corrected. That's unusual, but not impossible. I can include that in the documents too. Over the next few hours, Margaret worked with the 4 of them to document everything. She measured the dimensions of the home improvements, photographed the reformed garden, listed all the tools and equipment the sisters had repaired or modified. "Impressive," she said, examining the barn reorganized by Helena. "You truly transformed this place." "We transformed our lives," Helena said. "The place was just a consequence." Margaret smiled. "That will look great in the affidavit. We transformed our lives." When Margaret finished the documents, it was almost evening. She had them sit around the kitchen table and explained each paper. "This one divides the property into 4 equal shares. This one documents all the improvements and labor investment. This one officially changes your names. And this," she held up a different paper, "this declares you a legally recognized family of choice." "Family of choice?" Nathan asked. "It's a new legal concept. It recognizes that families can be formed by mutual choice, not just by blood or traditional marriage." Rosa took the paper and read, "Nathan, Helena, Carmen, and Rosa Roots mutually declare themselves to be a family of choice, with all the rights and responsibilities that implies, including medical decision-making, inheritance, and mutual legal protection." "And that means we are legally a family?" Carmen asked. "It means you have the same rights as any traditional family, but based on conscious choice instead of accidents of birth." Helena signed first, then Carmen, then Rosa, finally Nathan. "Done," Margaret said, gathering the papers. "Officially, you are the proprietors of Roots Ranch and members of the Roots family." After Margaret left, the 4 sat on the porch in silence. "So," Nathan finally said, "No, now we're a real family." "No," Helena said. "Now we're a family with papers that prove what we already knew." Rosa stood up and pointed to the sign she had made. "Do you know what we'll do when my father comes with the judge?" "What?" "We'll show them the sign. We'll show them the documents. We'll show them the land we cared for. And we'll say, this is our home. These are our roots. If you want to take us out of here, you'll have to tear us out of the ground with your bare hands." Carmen chuckled. "And if they try?" Rosa smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "Then they'll find out that the roots of big women are deeper and stronger than they imagine." The next morning, Helena woke up with an idea. She went out of the house before dawn and started working on a new sign. This one was smaller than the first, but detailed. When the others woke up, she was finishing carving it. "What is that?" Nathan asked. Helena showed the sign. It read, "The Roots Family. Helena, Carmen, Rosa, Nathan. Proprietors since 1887. Here we stay." "I'm going to install this at the property entrance," Helena said, "so that anyone who arrives here knows exactly who they're dealing with." "What if someone tries to take the sign down?" Carmen asked. Helena smiled. "Then they'll find out that messing with our sign is messing with our family. And messing with our family is messing with our roots," Rosa and Carmen completed together. "And messing with our roots," Nathan finished, "is like trying to pull up a 100-year-old tree with your bare hands." They installed the second sign that same day, right at the property entrance, where any visitor would see it first thing. When they finished, the 4 stood, watching their work. "I think we're ready," Rosa said. "Ready for what?" Nathan asked. "Ready for anything that comes," Helena said, "because now we're no longer 4 people trying to hide from the world. We are the Roots family, defending our home." The judge arrived in a black carriage 3 days later, accompanied by Harry, Montoya, and 2 deputies. It was noon, the sun was high, and the Roots family was working when the dust rose on the horizon for the 3rd time. This time, they didn't stop what they were doing. Helena continued welding an iron grate for the window. Carmen continued watering the garden. Rosa continued painting the barn. Nathan continued mending the fence. All worked calmly, but all were attentive. The carriage stopped in front of the new sign. The Roots family. Helena, Carmen, Rosa, Nathan. Proprietors since 1887. Here we stay. The judge dismounted first. He was a short, fat man in expensive clothes and the air of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Harry got down next, visibly nervous. The 2 deputies stayed in the carriage, but Nathan noticed that both had hands near their weapons. "Mr. Caldwell," the judge shouted, "I need to speak with you." Nathan finished nailing the board he was fixing before turning around. "Judge Morrison," he said calmly, "how can I help you?" "I've come to resolve a legal matter involving the 3 women living here." "Which 3 women?" The judge blinked. "Harry Montoya's daughters, Helena, Carmen, and Rosa. Ah, Nathan said, as if finally understanding. You must be talking about my family, Helena, Carmen, and Rosa Roots. Roots? Nathan pointed to the sign. As you can see, we are the Roots family, proprietors of Roots Ranch. Harry stepped forward. Judge, this man is trying to confuse things. These are my daughters. I've come to take them. Helena dropped her torch and approached. Even from a distance, her height and presence were impressive. Daughters, she said, her voice cutting the air like a blade. Fathers don't sell daughters, Mr. Montoya. The judge turned to her. Miss Montoya, Mrs. Roots, Helena corrected. Helena Roots, and these are my partners and family. Carmen Roots, Rosa Roots, and Nathan Roots. Carmen and Rosa approached, flanking Helena. Together the three formed a wall of determination. Ladies, the judge said, trying to sound authoritative, but clearly intimidated by the physical presence of the three. I have received a petition from your father questioning the legality of your current situation. Our current situation? Carmen repeated. What situation would that be? Well, you are living here without proper family supervision in an arrangement that may not be appropriate. Rosa laughed. It was not a joyful sound. Judge Morrison, are you worried about our virtue? I'm worried about legality. Then you'll be happy to know, Nathan interrupted, pulling papers from his pocket, that our situation is completely legal. He handed the documents to the judge. Deed of property in the name of 4 equal partners. Documentation of legal name changes. Declaration of chosen family. All signed, stamped, and recorded. The judge examined the papers with growing discomfort. This is highly unusual. Legal, Helena pressed. Well, yes, technically legal. Harry snatched the papers from the judge's hands. This can't be right. They're my daughters. I have rights. What rights? Carmen asked, stepping closer to him. The rights of a man who sold us like cattle? I didn't sell you. I found homes. You sold us, Rosa said calmly, for 3 months of drinking debt. We remember the exact amount. The judge looked at Harry with new disapproval. Is that true, Montoya? Harry swallowed hard. The circumstances, Helena said, taking one step forward, were that you were drunk, had lost everything gambling, and saw 3 daughters as the easiest solution to your problems. She pointed to the property around them. Look at what we've done here, Judge Morrison. Look at this land, this house, this garden, these repairs. This place was dead when we arrived. Now it's alive. It's true, the judge admitted, looking around. The property looks well cared for. Looks? Carmen laughing. Judge, we resurrected this place. Do you know any woman in a situation of improper family supervision who can do that? Rosa stepped forward. Judge Morrison, do you have daughters? I do. Would you sell them to pay debts? Of course not. Then you understand that Harry Montoya lost any paternal right the moment he put a price on our heads. The judge looked at Harry, then at the 3 women, then at Nathan, then at the papers in his hands. Mr. Montoya, he finally said, these women are legally land proprietors. They have independent means of subsistence and have chosen their own family. I see no legal basis for questioning this. But they're my daughters. Helena took 2 steps and stood face to face with Harry. She was at least 6 inches taller than him. We were your daughters, she said, her voice low and dangerous, until the day you led us to Joaquin Vasquez and said, they're yours now. In that moment, we stopped being your daughters and became merchandise. She paused. But merchandise that learned to value itself. Harry tried to back away but stumbled. You can't disrespect me like this. I'm your father. No, Carmen said, joining Helena. You were the father of 3 girls who died the day they were sold. We are women who were born the day we chose a new family. Rosa completed the trio, forming a semicircle around Harry. And these women, she said, do not answer to men who confuse possession with parenthood. The judge put the papers away. Mr. Montoya, I suggest you accept the situation. Your former daughters are in a solid legal situation, and they seem prosperous and happy. Happy? Harry shouted. They don't know what happiness is. They're aberrations, monsters. No real man will ever want them. Nathan stepped forward. I want them. You don't count. You're a failure who can't pay his own bills. I was a failure, Nathan corrected. Now I am a partner, proprietor of Roots Ranch, member of the Roots family, and the luckiest man in this region for having found three women who taught me what strength truly means. He positioned himself next to the three sisters. And if you think they are monsters, it's because you never learned the difference between awe and character. Harry looked at the four, then at the judge, then at the deputies, who clearly had no interest in getting involved in a dispute that was no longer legal. This won't stand, he muttered. Helena smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Yes, it will. It will stand exactly like this, because we are no longer the scared girls you sold. We are the proprietors of this land, and this land is our root. She pointed to the ground. You are trespassing on our property without permission. I suggest you leave before we decide you are invading our home. Harry looked to the judge for support, but Morrison was already heading back to the carriage. The matter is resolved, Montoya. Let's go. Harry stood for another moment, looking at the four people who had become a family by their own choice. In his eyes there was rage, but also something that might have been respect, if he were capable of feeling such a thing. You'll regret this, he said, but his voice was lacking conviction. Maybe, Helena said, but not for having chosen our own lives. Harry climbed into the carriage. As it started to move away, Rosa shouted, Mr. Montoya, one last thing. Harry turned around. Thank you for selling us. It was the best thing you ever did for us. The carriage disappeared in a cloud of dust, and the four members of the Roots family stood in the yard of their property, watching the horizon swallow their ghosts of the past. Is it over? Rosa asked. Finally, it's over, Helena said. He won't come back. He might come back, Nathan said. But if he does, he'll find the same thing, a family defending its home. Carmen looked at the sign Rosa had made. Here we stay, she read. And so we do. Here we stay. Winter arrived early that year, but Roots Ranch was prepared. The house had enough wood for the fire. The pantry was full of preserves Carmen had prepared. And the barn reorganized by Helena protected the animals from the cold wind. Nathan was on the porch one December afternoon, watching Rosa teach Carmen to carve wood when Helena sat down beside him. What are you thinking about? She asked. How much this place has changed. The place or us? Nathan smiled. Both. When Joaquin brought you here, I thought my life was over, that I had been forced into an impossible situation. And now? No, I know my life was just waiting to begin. Helena was quiet for a moment, watching her sister's work. Do you know the day I knew we were going to stay? Which day? The day you said we turned broken things into useful things. No one had ever seen that in us before. It was impossible not to see it. No, Nathan, it was impossible for you not to see it, because you were broken too. Broken people recognize other broken people, and broken people know the value of being fixed. Nathan chuckled. It was true. He had arrived at that ranch already defeated, already shattered by the loss of his wife in the years of loneliness. The three sisters had arrived shattered by years of rejection and abuse. You fixed me too, he said. We fixed each other. That's what families do. Rosa approached them, carrying a small wooden sculpture. Look what I made, and she said, showing a small carved horse. It's for the baby. Nathan and Helena looked at each other. What baby? Nathan asked. Rosa smiled. The baby Carmen is expecting. Nathan turned to look at Carmen, who was sitting on the barn floor, her hands on her still flat belly. Carmen is pregnant? 2 weeks along, Helena said. She told me yesterday. Nathan felt a mixture of emotions, surprise, joy, worry, hope. But how? The baby is not yours, Nathan, Rosa said gently. It's Carmen's, and ours, the family's. Nathan took a moment to understand. I mean some seeds come from places we don't expect. But if the earth is good, they grow anyway. Helena stood up and extended her hand to Nathan. Come, Carmen wants to talk to you. They walked to the barn where Carmen was organizing tools with careful movements. Carmen, Nathan said, approaching, Rosa told me about the baby. Carmen stopped working and turned to him. Her eyes were shining. Are you mad? Mad? Why would I be mad? Because the baby will bring complications, another mouth to feed, more responsibilities. Nathan knelt beside Carmen. Carmen, This baby is going to be the first person born on Roots Ranch. The first person who will grow up knowing this place is their home from the very first day of life. How could I be mad? Carmen began to cry, tears of relief and happiness. I was afraid you would send me away. Never, Helena said, joining them. You are our family. Your baby is our family. And, Rosa added, I'm already making toys for them. That night during dinner, they talked about the future. The baby would be born in late summer. They would need to make changes to the house, create a nursery, prepare for a child. Will we know how to take care of a baby? Rosa asked. We'll learn, Carmen said, just like we learned to take care of each other. What if the baby is like us? Helena asked. Big, strong, different? Then, Nathan said, they'll grow up knowing that being different is a gift, not a curse. Carmen placed her hand on her belly. This baby will grow up knowing that family is choice. Will grow up knowing that home is acceptance, just as it is. Will grow up knowing that strength comes from within, not from without. And, Rosa added, they'll grow up knowing that some of the best families are the ones people create, not the ones they're born into. Later that night, Nathan went out to the porch and found the three sisters looking at the stars as they always did. Still seeing possibilities? He asked. Seeing the future, Helena said. A future where a child will grow up in a house full of love, on a land that belongs to their family, in a family that chose to be together. A future, Carmen said, where being different is celebrated, not hidden. A future, Rosa said, where roots grow deep and strong. Nathan looked at the stars too. Do you know what I see when I look at the stars now? What? Gratitude. Gratitude that a debt I couldn't pay gave me the one thing I truly needed. A family. Helena smiled. Funny how life works. We were sold as problems and we turned into solutions. You didn't turn into them, Nathan corrected. You always were solutions. You just needed someone who knew how to read the right question. That night, when everyone went to sleep, Nathan stayed awake for a little longer, listening to the sounds of the house. Helena stirring in the next room, Carmen whispering to the baby she carried, Rosa softly humming a tune she had made up. They were the sounds of a family, the sounds of a home. Outside, the wind rattled the two signs they had made, Roots Ranch and the Roots family. Helena, Carmen, Rosa, Nathan, proprietors since 1887. Here we stay. The signs were firmly fixed in the earth, like deep roots, and like roots, they weren't going anywhere. Helena never had to walk away, never needed to, but she made the world stop and look at what three giant women and one broken man could build together when they chose to become a family. Their bodies were big, but their stories became even bigger. Stories of choice, stories of dignity, stories of love that grows in barren land when you plant the right seeds. They didn't avenge the past. They planted a future. And at Roots Ranch, where four people chose to become family, where the earth learned to bear fruit again, where a baby would grow up knowing that home is where you choose to stay, there the roots grew so deep that neither storm, nor law, nor prejudice could tear them out. If you believe that family is a daily choice, if you know that strength comes from accepting who you are and not hiding from what you can't change, if you understand that some of the most beautiful stories begin with endings that seemed impossible, then you understand that true roots don't grow upwards looking for approval. They grow downwards, creating a foundation. And a foundation is forever. Comment roots if this story touched your soul. Comment family if you believe that true love is a choice, not an accident. Share this if you know someone who needs to remember that being different is being necessary. Because in the end, we are not what others make of us. We are what we choose to make of ourselves. And sometimes, when we choose right, we do more than survive. Sometimes we flourish. Subscribe to Windswept Tales for more stories from the American frontier.